I'm Tim Herrera with the Sacramento County Office of Education, here with another Teacher of the Year profile. We're speaking with Brandon Parker, who is one of 2 Teachers of the Year for the Sacramento City Unified School District. Congratulations and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us the name of your school, and I know you teach several different things, so tell us about that.
So I teach at Albert Einstein Middle School in the Sac City Unified School District. I teach language arts for 8th graders, and I also teach a leadership class, which is sort of like student government and activities.
And I understand physical education as well?
I also do physical education. Right now, they most need me in the language arts arena, but I do enjoy teaching PE for sure.
So language arts, what do 8th graders focus on? What are they working on there specifically?
Writing. Writing. You know, I try to find fascinating content for the students to get engaged with, so they have something to write about. Argumentative writing is heavy right now, so kids being able to have an opinion about something, put together a well-built argument, and bring it to somebody.
So 8th graders, do they have trouble expressing themselves in the written word, or at least properly?
You know, I find that 8th graders is a really interesting age. I've taught high school, and I never thought I'd want to teach middle school, but they are very malleable. You can really engage them and watch them take a topic and run with it. These kids want to be heard. They have ideas. They have opinions about everything in the world. So it's really not hard to get them motivated to write.
So they do have a lot to say.
They have a lot to say.
Yeah. And so, and your goal is to help them express themselves.
Help them express themselves, and then I guess that's the starting point, and then we talk about format, you know, and those sort of things, the mechanical aspects of it. But I think the first part is be engaged and tell me what you think.
And so when you're working with a student as a young writer, what are the foundational skills that you really want them to have down pat to really, you know, give a good argument and write clearly and concisely?
I mean, I guess all the skills sort of mesh together. I want to be able to see that they can read something, show me that they've understand what they've read, and it really depends on what we're doing, whether we're critiquing an author or if we're looking for what their style is. But just in general, can you read something? Do you know what they said? Do you have an opinion about it? Can you pull out some information from the text and give me some analysis?
So tell me what you do to motivate your students to be critical thinkers, and what are some of the things you do with them?
Every time I start a unit, I'll engage them with, you know, sort of a research question, or we call them quick writes, to figure out how much they know about a topic. One thing, I do a unit on dystopian societies, and I'll ask kids, do you know what a dystopia is? Most of them have heard of a utopia, so they know that there's some sort of connection there. But we really, it sort of gets deep pretty quickly. When we read an excerpt from The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, and I find students, don't know what atomic weapons are, or they don't know that that we've used them in warfare. So, it's interesting because we can kind of talk about real life and history, and all of a sudden the literature is connected to their world, and then they have something to say.
So what's modern in literature these days that interests students? What do you work with?
Right now I teach 3 novels. I teach Touching Spirit Bear by Ben Michelson, which is sort of a chance for them to see what restorative justice is and restorative practice. Instead of punishment, we're looking at healing. So that's something that we jump into right around Christmas. My favorite novel that I teach is it's called The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. And we can really, I find that these kids don't have a base knowledge for Native American history, or just there's holes in their American history. So we talk about a lot of things. They have to have some base knowledge before they can access what this author is talking about. And the premise is a Native American student leaving the reservation because there's not enough money pouring into his school. He wants a better shot at life.
And then you mix that with more established writers, or I would just say well-known, like classic writers, like you just mentioned, the Marshall Chronicles and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We do William Golding too. We do Lord of the Flies. I close the year out with that because that's a higher level for 8th graders, specifically the sentence fluency, the vocabulary. But when students understand the themes and what's going on, they sort of get involved in the story, and we can get past some of those hurdles because they're invested.
And you mentioned that you teach leadership.
Yes.
Tell me the value in that, because it's so great.
Well, it just gives, I think students surprise themselves on what they can do. They're involved in the community, Just this past year, they were able to work with Cal Walks and do sort of a pedestrian and bicycle safety training. We did a walk with, we had the sheriffs out there, other community leaders to look and see, is our pedestrian, these avenues for our pedestrians, is it the safest? And so students, raised money, gave away free helmets. We did pop-up crosswalks in just the parking lot, and it got parents to be conscious about zipping in and out of the parking lot. Mm-hmm. So it's just a chance for students to engage the community.
And what values do they get from being in leadership positions or being seen as leaders on campus?
I think self-confidence, for one. They're willing to take on bigger challenges. Sometimes you might present a small idea to them, and it's interesting to watch students collaborate and see this idea grow and sort of come to fruition. One scenario where one student wanted to do a clothing drive, and it turned into this huge situation where we had more clothes than I knew what to do with. And we were able to help a family on campus who was displaced by a fire. And the magnitude of that situation, the students understood what had happened there. And so just to see that they can make an impact, I think it makes them want to do more outreach.
Yeah, and what kind of values do you instill in them to be good citizens?
To be accountable, to help out your fellow students, to be engaged in your campus and overall your community. And so, you get a range of students in that class just like you do any class, but it's about just, engaging and being involved. And while you may not have a project that's going on, your classmates are engaging the campus in a certain project, and you want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of that, the fabric of that community.
So what made you become a teacher? What brought you to the position?
I was fortunate in probably a troubling time in my life when I was an adolescent, where I had a few people, my track coach, Coach Pierce, who grabbed me when I was a sophomore, my world history teacher, Mr. Coffey, my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Bean. These people that invested in a student that had probably been written off by people as a troubled kid. They didn't know what was going on in my family life at the time, but I just needed some guidance. And I had these few people along the way that saw through my facade and tried to reach my core. And, in the end, I was able to turn things around, and I was a scholarship athlete. And, if I hadn't made a few different moves, it might not have turned out that way. And so it's kind of been my quest to do that for as many students as possible, as long as I'm a teacher.
So it's interesting that you said they saw right through you. Mm-hmm. So do you see right through your students sometimes?
A lot of times when people are wounded or hurt, they sort of put on this facade. One thing that I definitely enjoy doing, but I feel like it's my calling too, is challenging my minority students. It's sort of I want to say a forgotten demographic, but a demographic that sort of falls through the cracks sometimes. And so for me, I can see some of these same qualities that I had when I was a young student, and I try to punch right through that facade and say, hey, you got to step up and you got to try, and you got to know that you're worth it to try. And you got somebody who cares about you here, but somebody that's not afraid to challenge you, and that's not going to let you get away with pulling these stunts that you've been pulling on everybody else, because you have something inside you. You're worth it.
And that really speaks to the students who are troubled.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can't save everybody, figuratively, but you do make impacts. And most recently, I got to see a student graduate from Sac State, who I mentored when he was like in 4th and 5th grade through an after-school program. It was like a side college job. Got to teach him in high school and coach him, and now I've seen him, graduate with a degree in what did he do? Child development studies and community engagement. So,
how gratifying was that for you?
Oh man, I mean, it just warms my heart. I mean, He wrote a letter of recommendation for me for this whole process, and brought tears to my eyes just to see that all I was trying to do was mimic what some people had done for me, and it was just, it was tangible. It was right there. Somebody else said, hey, thank you for not giving up on me, and you made a difference in my life.
So what's it mean for you to be a Teacher of the Year, Brandon?
It's exciting, absolutely, but I just think hopefully I can use, whatever goes along with this to make a bigger difference in my classroom, maybe change some ideas on how people approach the classroom themselves. But as far as the day-to-day business, how I engage my students, it's going to be the same thing. You're on Mr. Parker's English adventure. You're going to have fun in this class. Mm-hmm. You may not have liked reading before you got here, but trust me, you're going to have fun, and you're going to love this class.
Well, congratulations to you, and we enjoyed spending some time with you. We've been speaking with Brandon Parker, who is one of 2 Teachers of the Year for the Sacramento City Unified School District. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.